The Siege of Eger, one of the most remarkable defensive victories in Europe's long struggle against the Ottoman Empire. In 1552, an army of nearly 40,000 Ottoman soldiers advanced north. They brought elite troops, modern weapons, and heavy cannons capable of turning stone walls into dust. Eger had only a few thousand defenders. By every calculation, the fortress should have fallen quickly. There was no clear path to survival, and yet that collapse never came. Behind those walls stood people who refused to accept the odds. Soldiers fighting past exhaustion, civilians rebuilding walls as fast as they were destroyed, and a young inventor whose strange weapons turned an unstoppable advance into chaos. What followed was not just a siege, but a story of unity, resilience, and defiance. To understand how Eger held, you have to step back into a world already on the edge. For decades, Hungary had lived under a shadow. A generation earlier at Mohacs, its army had been shattered so completely that the kingdom never truly recovered. The king was dead, the nobles scattered, and the land itself split apart. One region fell under Ottoman rule, another turned to the Habsburgs for protection, and everything in between became a fragile patchwork of communities trying to survive. As the years passed, the situation only worsened. Fortress after fortress fell. Buda, once the proud capital city, was lost. Strongholds that had once meant safety now marked the steady retreat of a nation. Each year the frontier moved. Each year Ottoman banners advanced farther north. By the autumn of 1552, the Ottoman Empire saw an opportunity. North of the frontier lay Hungary's mining towns, rich in silver, wealth that could fund armies and sustain power, but standing in the way was a single hilltop fortress. Eger, it was not a great city, not a powerful capital, just a small stronghold surrounded by fields and vineyards, but its position mattered. If Eger fell, the road north would open, and everything behind it would be exposed. The people of Eger understood this. They had seen refugees on the roads, heard stories of burned towns, watched smoke rise in the distance from places that once felt safe. No one believed they were important, but they knew. If their walls failed, everything beyond them would fall next. Far to the south, Ottoman commanders prepared their campaign. The empire was at the height of its power. Its armies were experienced, disciplined, and confident. Two commanders, Ahmed Pasha and Ali Pasha, led the force north. Their objective was simple: Eger would fall, quickly, easily, as so many fortresses had before. The Ottoman army moved like a world in motion. Tens of thousands of soldiers, engineers, artillery crews, supply caravans stretching for miles. Massive bronze cannons were hauled forward, weapons designed to shatter stone and break resistance. Everything about the army spoke of certainty. This was not a campaign of doubt. It was a march toward victory. And then they reached Eger. Inside the fortress, there was no illusion about what was coming. Reinforcements would not arrive in time. Retreat was not an option. The defense of Eger would depend entirely on those already inside. Command fell to Istvan Dobo. He was not known for reckless bravery, but for discipline, for organization, for keeping control when others might lose it. Dobo inspected every part of the fortress: the walls, the gates, the weak points, the supplies. He wasn't searching for strengths. He was identifying vulnerabilities and planning how to survive them. Under his command, Eger transformed. Walls were reinforced, gates strengthened, fallback positions prepared, weapons repaired, supplies organized. Everyone had a role. Soldiers trained, civilians carried materials. Even children helped where they could. Eger was still small, still outnumbered, but now it was ready. When the Ottoman army arrived, the valley below filled with movement, rows of tents, lines of soldiers, artillery positioned with precision. It wasn't chaos, it was control, the kind only an empire could achieve. Then came the bombardment. Cannons roared again and again and again. Stones shattered, dust filled the air. Sections of the walls began to collapse. Inside the fortress, there was no panic, only motion. Repairs began immediately. Debris was cleared, defenses rebuilt as fast as they were destroyed. Every breach became a battlefield, every opening a point of resistance. When Ottoman troops advanced, they were met with everything the defenders had: boiling water, burning materials, stones, arrows, anything that could stop momentum. This was no longer formal warfare, it was survival. And then something unexpected happened. The women of Eger joined the fight. They carried supplies, reinforced defenses, and when needed, they fought. The defense of Eger became something larger than a military effort. It became a collective stand, a community refusing to break. Among them was a young inventor, Gergely Bornemisza. He saw gunpowder not just as a weapon, but as an opportunity. He created crude explosive devices, barrels filled with flammable materials, clay containers packed with powder, weapons designed to disrupt, confuse, and burn. When the Ottomans advanced under cover of artillery, these weapons were unleashed. Explosions tore through their formations. Fire spread unpredictably. Confusion replaced confidence. The advance stalled, not defeated, but shaken. For the first time, the Ottoman army hesitated. The siege dragged on. Day after day, bombardment never stopped. Walls weakened, supplies dwindled, exhaustion set in. The Ottomans adapted. They dug trenches closer, brought ladders, prepared to scale the walls. The fighting became brutal, close, physical. Ladders pushed back, attackers forced down, every inch contested. Eger could not replace its losses. Every defender mattered. Every injury weakened the line, but still, they held. Then came the breaking point. After days of bombardment, a section of the wall collapsed. A breach opened, wide enough for the enemy to pour through. This was the moment the Ottomans had been waiting for. They advanced immediately. Infantry surged toward the opening. Drums sounded, standards raised. Inside the fortress, there was no retreat. Defenders rushed to the breach. Barricades were built from rubble. Lines were formed. Everyone moved with urgency. The fighting was immediate, close, relentless. The Ottomans pushed forward, wave after wave, each one pressing deeper. For a moment, it seemed the line might break. Then, everything shifted. A change in the wind blew smoke back toward the attackers. Visibility dropped. Confusion spread. It wasn't planned. It wasn't expected. But it was enough. The defenders pushed forward. Weapons struck with renewed force. Explosives ignited in tight spaces. Arrows rained down. Momentum changed. The attackers began to fall back, then retreat. The breach remained open, but the fortress still stood. That night, the Ottoman camp was quiet, and the next morning, the army began to withdraw. Slowly, without ceremony, they left. Eger had held. Against overwhelming odds, a small force had resisted one of the most powerful armies of its time. The victory was not clean, the walls were damaged, the people exhausted, but they had endured, and that was enough. In the years that followed, the siege of Eger became legend, a symbol of courage, of unity, of defiance. It proved something simple and powerful: that numbers do not decide every battle, that ingenuity matters, that leadership matters, and that ordinary people can shape history. Eger did not stop the Ottoman Empire, but it proved that even the strongest force can be resisted, and sometimes the difference between defeat and survival is simply the decision to stand.